Glad you guys are here. We're in part 3 of a series that we're calling All Out War. You walk in, you see the camouflage, the artillery here, and the videos and the whole bit, and you're wondering what is the deal with all the war language. If you haven't been around, this is part 3 of a series where we're talking about a battle. Now, on Thursday, I experienced a little bit of a battle with my face. I'm not wearing a Band-Aid over my nose because I'm trying to be like, Nelly or something like that. I actually had a little thing removed from my nose. It was called skin cancer. Growing up in Southern California, like most of you, not listening to anybody about sunscreen and being out in the sun all the time. There was a little scab on the end of my nose that never went away. My wife said, you ought to go in and take a look, get it taken a look at. Went to a dermatologist. They cut it out. They say, yep, it is called skin cancer. And Thursday I had to go in and get it cut out. And I experienced this little battle here because it's fine, but you know what happens with cancer, right? Some people win the battle of cancer and some people lose. Cancer, when you get cancer, it is a war with your body. None of you need to worry. I wasn't very clear last night, and I got these phone calls last night of people that were concerned. They got it all out. But what they did is they went in and they dug into my nose and they got it all out. And then they had to put stitches in, 6 little stitches. And I'm laying on this table, and I thought to myself, because I really thought, it's my nose. It's not that big of a deal. It's a little tiny dot of cancer. I'm going to go scoop it out like a thing of ice cream, and then 1 stitch, and I'm gone. Well, they shot my nose 6 times with this Novocaine so you don't feel anything. And at one point, I asked the doctor, is your fist in my nostril? Because that's what it felt like. It felt like a golf ball on my nose, and it was very, very hard. And then he started stitching it. And as he stitched, those of you that got stitches before, my whole head is being jerked back and forth as he puts these 6 stitches in. And then I got home, and I told my wife, I thought I was going to go in, like get it cut out, stitch it up, and go back to work. I was wiped out for the rest of the day. As a matter of fact, my face swelled up. Now, I'm going to show you a picture of what it looked like. And some of you, you're not even going to believe this was me, but this is what it looked like. So it swelled up pretty bad. But I thought to myself, here is this little part of the body that I hate to admit, hurt me so much. And today, as we talk about this all-out war, we're talking about clothing parts of your body in a spiritual metaphor. And today we're talking about the feet. And you think, a small part of the body, but what's the big deal? If you haven't been here, 3 weeks ago, Sean started this series by saying this: we are in a spiritual battle. The Bible teaches that if you are a follower of Christ, a Christian, you are in this spiritual battle. And in order to win in this spiritual battle, the Bible says you have to put on some types of armor. And what he started with, Sean said, you got to put on the belt of truth. And if you're going to win in this spiritual battle, you have to be a person of truth. You have to have some integrity. You need to know the right from wrong. And then last week, in the second part of the series, I talked about the armor, the breastplate, where you cover your vital organs of your heart, that you need to put on that armor, and it was the armor of righteousness. And if you weren't here last week, I'll give you the quick summary. Righteousness just means being right with God and right with others. So Sean says you put on the belt of truth. It says, I need to know what's right or wrong. Righteousness says, now I can go after that. Well, today we're talking about a small part of the body, the feet. And the Bible passage that we're looking at says this, that you put on the shoes of peace. Actually, let's do this. Let's just take 1 minute and take a look at this passage. This passage, you'll see it every week in this series. It's found in Ephesians chapter 6. And by the way, if you're here and you're kind of new and you don't have a Bible, we would love to put a Bible into your hand. What we try to do at church at Saddleback is have a high school experience where you come, you have a good time, you learn about the Bible. We try to talk in a language that's understandable. We'll put a Bible in your hands. We'll give it to you for free. We'll turn to this book in the Bible if you want to read on your own this week. And a little bit, Sean will come up and tell you some of the ways that you can, if you want to study some this week, you can do that. Ephesians 6, either in your notes, and if you don't have notes, raise your hand, we'll get them to you, or look to the screen. He writes this, a final word, be strong with the Lord's mighty power. Put on all of God's armor. Circle the word all. Okay, put on all of God's armor so that you will be able to stand firm against all the strategies and tricks of the devil. Circle the word all. Use every piece of God's armor to resist the enemy in the time of evil. Circle every piece. Now look at the result. So that after the battle you will still be standing firm. As the writer, the Apostle Paul, wrote to this church in Ephesians and said, I love you guys so much. I don't want you to be wiped out in this battle. And really, this is the message that Sean and I have for you guys during this series. We don't want you to be wiped out. When you graduate from high school, we don't want you to graduate from your faith. When it comes to your faith, we want you to be able to stand strong. So he says this, stand your ground, putting on the sturdy belt of truth. That was week 1. And the body armor of God's righteousness. That's week 2. Week 3 today. For shoes, put on the peace that comes from the good news so that you'll be fully prepared. And I thought, it's kind of interesting that he goes for the feet. Of all the things to cover, I mean, I can understand covering your heart with the armor. And in a couple weeks, we're going to be talking about putting on a helmet. But the feet, why cover the feet? They're such a wimpy little part of the body. But if you've ever had a foot injury before, okay? Like if your feet are not protected, here's what can happen in a little bit of battle. Check this out, okay? How about that? If you can't, it looks like he's been mowing the lawn barefooted. If your feet can't handle it, you're not going to be able to walk into the battle. You're not going to be able to stand strong if your feet are not protected. So he uses this image. To stand strong, you need peace. To walk into the battle, you need peace. Now, if you and I were to go out to lunch after this service, and just you and I talk, okay? We go to Taco Bell because I like Diet Pepsi, and I could afford to buy if we did this. And we sit kind of knee to knee, eye to eye with one another, and I said this, do you want a life of peace? There's probably not one of you in here who goes, nah, I really don't. I want my life to suck. Okay, you probably wouldn't do that. Of course you want a life of peace. But what does that mean? What is a life of peace? How do you define peace? What is peace? You saw in the video that we showed a little bit earlier, people couldn't even define peace. One guy said peace was in the trees. Peace is from within. Peace is when I sit on my couch. What is peace? I drive down the street and I see this bumper sticker that says, visualize world peace. Okay? This one right here, visualize world peace. Now, I don't know what that means. I drive by and I say, visualize world peace. So what does that do if I visualize it? If I stop my mind and I visualize everybody being peaceful and carrying daisies and leaping or what? And then the closer I get to the car, what do I find? The guy that has this on his car flips me off because I'm tailgating him. And that seems weird that you're flipping me off and yet you visualize world peace. The only reason I'm reading it is because you have a bumper sticker. I'm just honoring the fact if you have a bumper sticker, I'm going to read it. Maybe you should visualize larger bumper stickers. And what does that mean? And then you've seen other messages of peace. You've seen these bumper stickers, or I'm crazy about peace, or now symbols of peace, the peace sign, in different ways the peace sign. Some of you get tattoos and whatever that is, Chinese, Latin, or something. This guy, very peaceful. And what we know, rest in peace, okay? I just put that up there because I like the guy's last name. Can you imagine having that as a last name for your whole life? Okay? But here's what I've realized. If there are hundreds of high school students that came here this weekend, and we were to ask each of the hundreds of high school students that came here this weekend, what is peace and do you want it? Most people would say, yes, I want it, but we get all these different definitions of peace. And how do you go about getting it? Well, front page of the Register 2 days ago. I realize not many of you are newspaper readers, but the reason I bring this is because this is about high school students. Front page of Friday's Register. Teen abuse of cold medicines growing. The front page of the paper basically saying this, that the new way to get high is to go to the drugstore and drink a bunch of cough syrup. That there is this drug in cough syrup called DXM that is found in cough syrup, and teenagers now, this is the way to get high. They drink a bunch of cough syrup, and it says, that teens arrived at Mission Hospital, so it's in our community right here, hallucinating with owl-like eyes and racing heartbeats. And I thought maybe the mom had owl-like eyes there. But basically, that's today. Today is cough syrup. You know what it was 3 years ago? Some of you are going to laugh at this. It's true. Is frogs. They were finding toads. How many have heard this before? Okay, yeah. They're finding toads, and the toads, I don't know if the toads would like pass gas and all of a sudden excrete something out of the back, and they would lick the toad, and there would be some type of high that you would get off the toad. Whoever discovered that, I don't know, but that's how people were trying to get a high, all right? So we've gone from toads to cough syrup. What's next? Okay? Now, what are you doing? What is the pursuit? The pursuit is to feel something. The pursuit is to experience something. The pursuit is this journey of, wow, I want to, maybe I can't define peace, but maybe I know how to feel it if I lick the Todd or if I lick the Todd, that's probably happened before, but that's weird. Lick the toad or drink the cough syrup, okay? So we don't know how to define it. Let me do this. Let me give you a picture of what the Bible here teaches about peace, all right? Let me give you what the Bible says peace is. I put in your notes there, a picture of peace, okay? You might even write in your notes if you want. This is a biblical picture of peace. As a matter of fact, while your pen's moving, just write this off to the side. Here is the definition of peace. You ready? Absence of war. Okay? The Greek word for peace means absence of war. So what does it say in picture of peace? Is peace with God. Put a 1 by that. Peace with God. That's 1. Okay? We talked about this a little bit last week with righteousness. Colossians 1:20 says this. By him, meaning Jesus, God reconciled everything to himself. God made peace with everything in heaven and on earth by means of his blood on the cross. That because of what Jesus did on the cross, if we accept that Jesus died on the cross in our place, we can have peace with God. Okay, write a 2 next to the next one.